living legend of hair loss has returned, and I'm in your face. I'm in your face. You cannot get rid of me. You do not have the power to take your finger and press stop or pause. You will continue watching this video because I cast my power upon you. I control your thoughts. I control your emotions, and I control your future, especially for the next few minutes as you continue to watch my video. I am Nick Shell, the living legend of hair loss. Now let's get to business. Here's what we're looking at. We're checking out a comment here. It's funny because the person who left this comment probably is never going to watch my channel again. They left a comment on a video I probably made at least a year ago. The video was called, I mean, we've really explored a lot of options here on this channel when it comes to hair loss. I asked the question, what if you never go bald, but now you have an illegitimate child? Like some kind of weird genie that grants you this. Okay, how old are you? Okay, whatever. You're never going to have to worry about going bald. You're going to have to keep a full head of hair. But now you have an illegitimate child who you're responsible for knowing that you're the father and trying to make this work with the mother who wants no relationship with you now. And all. So yeah, it got really deep, but I like going to those places because I wanted to help people who are worried about their hair loss to think, what about all the other serious things people are dealing with in real life? And they may have a perfect head of hair, but they've got a lot worse problems. So I did a whole series of like 20 different scenarios, and they weren't very popular, but that one got a comment. So here's Brandon Grossman, and basically here's what he says, quote, "What the heck? You look like you're balding here," talking about that in that video, "but in recent videos you wouldn't know. What did you do?" End quote. Now, I recently mentioned that I have been using the BRB shampoo faithfully for 11.5 months. That's the only thing I can tell you. I can't tell you I've been doing anything other than that. And I stopped being a vegan shortly after there too. And I'd been a vegan for how many years? 5.5, and a vegetarian for 7. And I'm now back to just simply being kosher. So, they're like, how could you look so bad in that one video? And now you really don't seem to be someone who's suffering from severe hair loss. And it is true in that video. I mean, what was going on is I was outside in the Tennessee sun shining right on my head. I was growing out a zero guard buzz cut, and I was about, I don't know, a month or so into it. So it looked awful because my hair is thick around here, because I've got some diffuse thinning up here. But what happened is it was like this band around kind of like the top of my head. So it looked kind of like this, but just, it really made it look like I was just bald, but that's the deal. So to answer the question, here's the deal actually. The deal is, if you're like me and you do have a receding hairline and you do have some diffuse thinning going on and you're growing out a buzz cut, a zero guard buzz cut, and you're outside, your hair is going to look pretty bad. So if you're growing it out, you just accept, hey, for the next 3 months, my hair is going to look pretty awful. It's going to look bad. But so many men, consider that I'm 38, I think a lot of guys are in my situation where even if we are pushing 40 and we don't seem to be noticeably balding, we are in a situation where we know that we have to keep our hair at a certain length for it to not be noticeable that we've got diffuse thinning. That is something that if you really explore, you learn that about, especially a lot of guys my age. I think for me, and this is what I'm going to say, I feel, I believe, I perceive that I'm pretty much the image of the typical 38-year-old man when it comes to hair. I have a receding hairline. I have diffuse thinning. If you look closely, you can even see, especially it's thinning back here. But I'm not balding in the sense that what people think of when they think of balding. I'm mildly balding, but if I was one of 10 faces you saw of men that were 38, there would be some that had no hair left on top. There would be some that had maybe a patch here, but they were noticeably bald. There would be some guys with perfect hair. But then I'd say the most average, normal guy in that 10 lineup would be me. I am the epitome of what a 38-year-old guy looks like when it comes to hair loss. I'm not extremely losing my hair, but nor do I have a perfectly thick head of hair with a straight across hairline. I am like completely average, which is one of the reasons I think that my channel is relevant to the hair loss community, because I can relate to the guys who are experiencing hair loss, but I can also relate to the guys who still have their hair. I'm perfectly in the middle of that, and I've always been quick to recognize that. So yeah, to answer the question, what happened? Ultimately, the answer is this. Since that last video about a year ago, where I was walking outside in this Tennessee sun while my hair was growing out from a zero-guard buzz cut, what's the difference? Well, I'm inside, and my hair is no longer growing out from a buzz cut. And that makes all the difference in the world. The length of your hair when you have a receding hairline and diffuse thinning, mixed with how much sun is coming in and exposing your hair, that makes the world of difference. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying that if you have thinning hair to grow your hair really long, because that can only accentuate your hair loss. I saw this one guy not too long ago, probably about my age. I was walking behind him, and he had kind of like this alternative rock kind of hairstyle in a way. It was like really kind of long on top, like almost like a mohawk, but it was just long and slick back, and then it was like shaved on the sides. But then when I was standing behind him, and you are going to notice my hair is a little bit thinner, I'm going to go ahead and point that out for you. I was standing behind him, and it was, I'm going to use my phone as an example. It was as if, I'm going to put it on the back side so you can tell, so it separates, not like black on brown, but like blue on brown so you can see better. But it was like, so he had this long mohawk strip, and it was like hanging down here. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Like that was his hair, like this. But the thing is, like he had a bald spot basically. It wasn't all the way to the skin, but it was pretty severe. And so you see this flap of hair, but then you can clearly see that it was covering up a bald spot. So clearly, in case I need to say this out loud, having long hair is not the solution if you have thinning hair or a receding hairline. But there's a happy medium in which you can get away with majorly downplaying a receding hairline and also the diffuse thinning. That you can really downplay it without accentuating it. And I would argue there's something to the likeness of this haircut's going to be the best, this hairstyle is the best way to do it. I got this hairstyle, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's very basic. All you'd have to tell the lady, or man, or barber, or beautician, or whoever it is, I just say like 2.5 inches on top, and then they use the number 5 guard clippers on the back. I personally think the sideburns are important. I think that speaks a subtle image of rebellion, man. Because Nick Shell is a rebel. Nick Shell has no fear of trying to seem normal. And that's so much of my life as a success story, is that I'm not worried about being perceived as normal. I have no fear about being perceived as normal. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know another thing about me. I also do not care if other people perceive me as immoral, wrong, or ignorant. Immoral, wrong, or ignorant. People will constantly say these things about you or think these things about you. When you're Nick Shell, you're like, yes, I agree with you. I am wrong. I am ignorant. I am, all these things, because whatever people believe is true in their minds. Why do you need to convince them against it? And even if you can convince someone against what they already believe and prove them wrong, you lose their respect. Nick Shell teaches that if you want another person to respect you, you can never do it by proving them wrong. That will only have the opposite effect. They will respect you absolutely less, even if you prove them right. Because what it's about is people do respect people who are able to teach them new things in a way that does not attack their identity and basically hurt their feelings. Now, because I'm someone who does not allow other people to affect my emotions, I'm able to understand that with most people, they can easily get their feelings hurt. They can easily get insulted or disrespected. So I've figured out ways to be able to communicate with people and point things out and basically just kind of make soft suggestions or use another example to say, well, here's what this person's doing, or here's what's worked for me, but do whatever you think. I've learned that that's actually how you can influence someone instead of just saying, no, you're wrong. And that's why you're going to see in the comment section regularly, that's what people like to say, no, you're wrong. It was funny. Hey, let me leave you with this. This is hilarious. So I recently made a video talking about how typically lower income people, poor people, are more likely to gamble. They're more likely to play the lottery. And basically what they're doing is they're paying a separate tax, because we're all taxed, right? But poor people spend more of the less money that they have compared to the rest of us on that gamble of making more money. And typically they don't win, and even if they did, they don't know how to manage the money, so they still lose it. But with that money that they do have, they've been paying a tax. They don't win it, but they're constantly paying this tax that the rest of us don't have to pay, right? And then also, lower income people often will go to the casinos, and I compare that to a shady bank. A shady bank, oh, give us your money, we'll invest it for you. But a casino is not going to do that. And so I was pointing out that generalization. So one kid comes along and it says something like, well, my great grandfather was the Texan holder, professional winner. He won, $200,000, and he points out this extreme exception to the rule. And if you know me, you know that I often generalize about people, about theories, about concepts, and I never care about the exception to the rule. If I can say that this is true at least more than half the time, we need to pay attention to this pattern, because there's probably something for us to learn about that. But even with this thing, so is it true that you can take advantage of the gambling system and maybe come out on top and then run away with the money? Yeah, it's possible, but most people, especially lower income people, are not going to be able to do that. Most of them are going to lose, and that was a generalization that is true. But the one guy wanted to point out the exception, and what he said in the comment, he said, no, you're highly wrong. Well, no, actually, I was not highly wrong at all. I was highly right, and there are exceptions. Now, how did I respond to it? I didn't say, no, you're wrong. I just said, well, clearly your grandfather was the exception to the rule, because anything beyond that wasn't going to be helping. You can't prove people wrong and still get the respect. But what this video is actually about was explaining why my hair suddenly looks remarkable compared to that video that he's talking about when I was growing out a zero guard buzz cut with my diffuse thinning receding hairline out in the Tennessee sun. You grow your hair out the right length and you're not outside, and it's going to look completely different when you're inside and not growing out a buzz cut. And down the road, you're going to see this play out yet again after I have shaved off all my hair for many months, and then I start growing it out again. You're going to be able to experience and see that awkward thing. And that's one of the reasons why I probably don't shave my hair off more often, is because it's 3 months of just having awful looking hair as it's growing out when you have diffuse thinning receding hairline. So you learned so much. What would you do without me in your life? Well, you could probably answer that, because I went away for 3 months, and it only made the fondness grow in your heart that much larger for Nick Shell, the living legend of hair loss. Now you've got something to say, and you're going to say it right now and right here in the comments.